Good evening, students. Welcome to Byju's. Welcome to yet another weekly current affairs session. It's been a long time since I've met you all. How are you all doing today? Perfect. You can see all the thumbs up signs, and I'm also very pleased to be meeting back you guys today. So now, again, when we have to start the session, we know that, when it comes to the BEP app, I know by now most of you would be in the loop of the BEP app, but then still, if you are getting just started, now you can see over here is that you can log into the BEP app using your mobile number or through the Byju's ID that you have, that is your Gmail ID which is there. And after you log in, you can choose the course which is IAS. And from here, you can again choose the course which is specifically, because all the exams are there, you can choose IAS from there, select your exam from there, and then once you get into it, you will be seeing two screens. Now, one screen is for the students who have joined for the tablet learning program, and the other screen is for the students who have joined for the home learning program or the BHLP program. So based on the course that you have joined, select the necessary icons. For example, if you have joined for the tablet learning program, you have to select the home sign, which is over here on the side. And then if you've joined the classroom program, you have to select the My Classroom. Now, as I keep telling you guys, Byju's Exam Prep is the one-stop solution for all your preparation needs. So for example, if you need your study material, if you need your unit test, if you need your webinar videos, or if you need your regular tablet videos, all of it is available on the Byju's Exam Prep app. Now, without much delay, see, I know whenever I come to the class, I keep some topics which are quite interesting. Even today, I've come forward with you with almost 7 topics which are very interesting from the UPSC point of view. You will see that you have some very crucial UPSC topics like Asian Palm Oil Alliance, the Draft Telecommunications Bill, the PM Pranam Scheme, the DART mission, and then you have some oddballs. What are oddballs? Basically, those areas where you might not be generally seeing it like a current affair, but then UPSC will be seeing it like a current affair. And therefore, I have put some topics like the Joy Mala case, the TIF losses, the moonlighting and all from that perspective. Are you all excited for today's webinar to see how these 7 topics turn out to be? Perfect, perfect, perfect. Yes. Now, without much delay, let's go into the first topic, Asian Palm Oil Alliance. And I want to tell you one thing before I start. Along with each topic, I have something like I wouldn't call it surprise, but something interesting for you. So be very attentive when I take up these topics, because at the end or in the middle, there will be something, I would call it like a surprise element for you that you can actually make your class gets very exciting with it. So be very attentive when I take these topics. The first topic is your Asian Palm Oil Alliance. Now, before we go into what is this Asian Palm Oil Alliance, let's start off with palm oil. Now, we all use it. It's an all-time favorite for our pakoras, for our snacks, for every other thing we have used palm oil. Palm oil is basically a vegetable oil. And in the case of a vegetable oil, there are 3 major uses that palm oil is used for. Palm oil is used for cooking purposes. Palm oil is used to make beauty products. For example, those among us who use lipsticks, palm oil is used in the lipstick making. Then apart from all this, palm oil is used also to make biofuels. What are biofuels? Any kind of fuel that you can put into a vehicle and burn it, you can make using even palm oil. So palm oil can be a substitute for diesel, petrol, and so on. Now coming into some of the crux facts of it. Palm oil is generally called as, or when you look at the scientific term, it's called as Elais guineacis. Why am I telling you the scientific term? I'll tell you this. In the last 1.5 years, palm oil has come in the newspapers, I think in every alternate day. And it's very sure that UPSC will ask a question on it. Last year, they already asked. This year, they can ask an advanced question. So this is the reason why I'm giving you the scientific name. It is Elaeus guineacis. This is the scientific name of palm oil plant. Now, palm oil is actually originated, or its origins can be seen in Africa. But right now, if you look at it, it's not there so much in Africa. It's moved on to your Malaysia, Indonesia, and all these other countries. What happened? Basically, when in African countries, the palm oil was cultivated, palm oil is a crop that needs very high rainfall. So you will see that palm oil is generally cultivated in areas of the tropics, because you need so much of better rainfall over there and very good kind of a humidity also. So palm oil is cultivated over here, or palm oil plant is cultivated over here. It was started, or in the beginning times, it was cultivated in Africa. Later on, when the Britishers found out that, hey, this is a good type of oil, and they figured out that this oil can be used in their factories, in their machines and all, as lubricants, basically trying to, make the machine smoother. At that point, the British was like, why do we even have to just cultivate it in Africa? We can cultivate it in all the other countries where we have colonies in. And they figured out Malaysia and Indonesia were good spots, and they started the cultivation over there. So remember this, palm oil is native to Africa. Native means the origins of palm oil is in Africa, but today it's widely cultivated in Southeast Asia. So if someone asks you which is the indigenous place of palm oil, it is Africa. Now coming into the present situation, you will see that Indonesia and Malaysia happen to be two major countries which contribute up to almost 90% of the global supply of palm oil. But apart from that, almost 42 other countries do cultivate, but Indonesia and Malaysia happen to be the major producers. If I had to add a third name to it, it would be Nigeria also. So Indonesia, Malaysia, and Nigeria happen to be the major producers of palm oil. Now coming into one very crucial aspect of palm oil. See, for a long time, palm oil has this very negative image. Even today, if you go to a supermarket and try to take a palm oil, you probably there would be one auntie or someone saying, hey, don't take palm oil. Palm oil is very bad. Now, the reason why palm oil is considered to be bad is because of some of the health effects it has. It is said to have, or said to create, cholesterol-like mechanisms in the body and thus be harmful for the body. Apart from that, palm oil is considered bad even because of environmental reasons. What are the environmental reasons? In most of the major areas of the world, palm oil is cultivated by, after you cut off all the important trees over there, they cultivate palm oil. Thus, in your tropical region, where there is so much of biodiversity, palm oil is cultivated after destroying all those trees. So this is the environmental problem of palm oil. But on the other hand, you have some supporters of palm oil also. They keep telling, like, see, palm oil is the best kind of vegetable oil that is there. Why? This chart will explain this to you. Look at all these different kinds of oil. There is soybean oil, there is coconut oil, sunflower oil, rapeseed oil, and there is palm oil. If you look at it, when you take a hectare of land and you give fertilizers and you cultivate all these plants, it is seen that from 1 hectare of land, you will get only 0.4 tons of soybean oil. From 1 hectare of land, you will get only 0.7 tons of coconut oil. In that same hectare of land, when you cultivate palm trees, you will get almost 3.3 tons of oil. So those who support palm oil say, see, we are not exploiting anything. We are cultivating this. In that 1 hectare of land, with whatever resources are there, we are able to generate almost 3.3 tons of oil in comparison to some other kind of seed. So you have supporters and you have dissenters to palm oil. Now coming into the Indian scene. Now this is important. Why? Because to understand this Asian Palm Oil Alliance, you need to know why India is in the mix of all this. India, as we know, is the largest importer of palm oil in Asia. India has so much of palm oil needs, so much so that almost 18 million tons of palm oil is imported from Indonesia and Malaysia, and that comprises almost 15% of the global supply. So now when it comes to over here, 8 million tons of palm oil is solely from Indonesia and Malaysia. Now, if you have been following the news, you know one major important thing. See, so Indonesia and Malaysia are supplying so much of palm oil to us. We are happy if everything is going good. But then last year, it was noticed that Indonesia and Malaysia also started having a shortage of palm oil, which means what? They stopped exporting palm oil. They said, like, see, we only need palm oil. Why will we give all the palm oil to all of you? So we need it for our personal use also. So we are not exporting much of palm oil. Now what happened? See, India is a country which is largely dependent on this oil. Though we have all these other oils in our country like mustard and coconut and rapeseed and soybean, we are heavily dependent on palm oil. And when these countries stopped the export of palm oil, we didn't know what to do. We were like, okay, the palm oil prices were going up. We did not have enough supply in our market. At this point, India, along with the other countries who were suffering at this point, decided, see, now we also need to take control. We also should have some group of our own, which will help in understanding that, okay, if some issues there or some crisis is there like this, we should not be on the receiving end of such disadvantages. We need to have a group that can commonly tell, no, you cannot stop the export of palm oil. We need palm oil. And thus rises this new grouping, your Asian Palm Oil Alliance. Your Asian Palm Oil Alliance, which I would tell you is a very hot topic for your 2023 prelims, is basically created to safeguard the economic and business interest of the palm oil consuming countries. Remember this. This is for the palm oil consuming countries because they are the ones who will suffer if any other country is like, we will not export anymore. So they need to protect their interests. They need to be like, no, you cannot stop the export. So the palm oil consuming countries came together and formed the Asian Palm Oil Alliance. And what they also said is that those, for example, in the future days, they feel like, or these countries feel like, we should have to stop this negative image of palm oil. We should work and communicate to the world that palm oil is also good in a lot of sense. So they are trying to put forward the idea when it comes to the yield of palm oil, it is a very good crop. When it comes to the so-called health benefits, they're trying to point out even other vegetable oil has these kinds of health defects, but still we are not targeting them. So why just palm oil? They want to put forward all these interests. And thus your Asian Palm Oil Alliance was formed. Who all are part of the Asian Palm Oil Alliance? You have India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Nepal. Now, there is a very interesting point over here. I earlier told you India is the second largest importer, or the second when it comes to the entire thing in Asia. If you look at the global supply or global requirements of it, India is the largest importer of palm oil in Asia. Now, did anyone else wonder who are the other people or the other countries which are the other importers? So if you had to make a list, India is the largest. Right behind India, you have your China, then you have your Pakistan, and you have Bangladesh. Which means what? All of these Asian countries need palm oil. They all are importing palm oil. But when they form the Asian Palm Oil Alliance, can you see that you do not have China in it? You have India, you have Pak, and you have Bangladesh. Now, there is no specific reason as to why, or China has not come forward and said as to why they did not join the Asian Palm Oil Alliance. But UPSC can very well confuse you with this. Why? How will that question be? How will that question look like if they want to confuse you? They will put forward the idea that India and China are the largest importers of palm oil in Asia. So you would be like, yeah, true, India is there, China is there, Pak is there, Bangladesh is there. And the next statement they would put like, all of these countries are part of the Asian Palm Oil Alliance? No. China is not a part of the Asian Palm Oil Alliance. So be very clear about it. Note this down. So again, I am recollecting back to that point where normally in our sessions, okay, so when we normally use, just give me a moment. Yeah, when we normally say, when it comes to what you say, the palm oil and everything, the UPSC tends to ask questions in this twisted manner. So earlier in my sessions, I would have told you, if you are sitting for these sessions, you have to make or try making your notes along with it. So if suppose, how many of you are making the notes along with this? Can I see a show of hands? Very good, very good. Oh, that is a very good response. Good job, guys. So now if you are making notes, I want you to put some kind of some in a different pen color or something, write it down. China not a member of APOA, because it is a point which can be twisted into a UPSC question. So now to ensure that, one of the major reasons why they have come forward is to ensure that all these palm oil consuming countries, their interests are supported. When there is a crisis, they have a group to put forward their ideas. It is also to ensure that palm oil is recognized as a high quality, economic, healthy vegetable oil, because they want to have this agenda, or they want to tell to the entire world that this is also good. And so forward, what will happen? This will create an awareness around this use of palm oil. Coming to the other part, one extra caveat is there. The membership of APOA is not fixed. It's not like, okay, there is India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and that's it, done. No. Here, the membership can be expanded to include producers and refiners of palm oil also. So this organization is for the long run. They want to ensure that in a later stage, like we have for OPEC, which is a petroleum exporting countries organization, they want to create an organization which will have palm oil consumers, producers, refiners, etc. So this is something that is there for the long haul. And India has one more reason to be very proud of this organization. Why? Because very recently, an Indian person was chosen as the CEO or the chief organizer of this organization. His name is Atul Chaturvedi. Not important from the UPSC point of view, but from a general knowledge point of view, if you are writing other exams also, this can be twisted or asked in a manner. So Atul Chaturvedi was chosen as the MD of this organization. That is also a reason for India to be proud. Now comes the surprise part. I'll tell you the point about this. Don't start writing this first. See, if you look at any prelims question paper, they will ask current affair questions. But one query that I keep getting from my students is, ma'am, I started my preparation only 8 or 6 months ago. They are asking current affairs which are 2 years back. How will I catch up with this? How many of you have that kind of a concern? That you are very new to this preparation, you're competing with people who are like 2 to 3 years into this preparation, and how will I ever compete with them? How many of you have that concern? Yes, a lot of you. I know this because when I talk to my students, I get this kind of a concern from them. This is something I have done for that. What I have done over here is, I have been seeing the current affairs of the past 2-3 years. So what I would do is, along with those topics that I feel very important, I would add a section called as prelims prediction, whereby which any relevant current affair related to that topic, which could be asked as a UPSC question, I will pick it out. And it might have happened in the last maybe 1 or 2 years. I will pick it out and I'll share it with you. So you get a complete picture. You just not have palm oil and Asian Palm Oil Alliance. You will have some information about something related to that topic which UPSC could ask, but has happened in the last 1 or 2 years. This will equip you to understand that topic in a wholesome manner. Are you all excited for this? Perfect. So now let me discuss this specific thing which is being told. It's called as RSPO. Okay, this is called as the Round Table on Sustainable Palm Oil. This was something that was formed in 2004. Now, though it was formed in 2004, every 2 or 3 years, they hold a meeting. Okay. And what do they do in this RSPO? It is related to palm oil. You all remember in the beginning, I told you, palm oil has certain environmental defects. Okay, so palm oil is generally cultivated by cutting off trees, and there is so much of degradation, environmental degradation. RSPO, what it tries to do is, it will come together, and it's a group of all these environment organizations which are there. Wherever palm oil is being cultivated, you can get a certificate from RSPO. And what will you get the certificate for? They will come and check if the palm oil cultivation is happening in an environmentally friendly manner. Is it affecting the biodiversity in any way? Have you cut down trees for it? How environmentally protective, or in what goals have you done to ensure that your palm oil cultivation is not affecting the environment near you? Based on all these parameters, they will give you a certificate. And once you get this certificate, your palm oil becomes like, we are creating environmentally friendly palm oil. So in your European countries, which also use palm oil, this RSPO certificate is considered very, very important. Why? Because Europe is mainly, they have progressed to such an extent where they are like, okay, we are not going to use any products which are having some kind of an environmental defect. So when the palm oil is given with this RSPO certificate, they are more welcoming to import it into Europe. So what is RSPO? It is a set of environmental and social criteria which companies must comply with in order to produce certified sustainable palm oil. It's not compulsory. So for example, if tomorrow I am cultivating palm oil in my field, I don't necessarily have to go and get the RSPO certificate. It's not a mandatory thing. But if I have it, my chances of importing into Europe and other, global countries and everything is much more higher. You know why I have put this over here? Why this is the prelims prediction? Very recently, this RSPO has become very controversial. Why? Because it has been seen that they are not actually, when they go and give the certificate, some things have to be actually checked. Okay, how much groundwater is this palm oil taking? These things they are not checking. They are just checking the very superficial fact that, okay, before cultivating palm oil, did you cut tree? When you are cultivating palm oil, is it have any trees around or any plants around are you destroying? They're having very few parameters. So again, in the last 2 years, RSPO has been constantly in news. Now again, this is a dimension of the palm oil that could be asked as a question. Is it clear to all of you guys? Perfect. Yes. Now we are going into, very soon we will be going into the question. Now, this question is quite special. Can anyone tell me why this question is special? RSPO is an international level, Kishan. Okay. Yes, okay. Now I'll tell you why you are not getting the idea. The reason why this question is special is because this is a past UPSC question, which means if you are solving this question right, you can be quite proud of yourself that, okay, I've got a UPSC question right. So now, can I start the poll? Let me just give me a moment, guys, to start the poll. Okay, can we start? You all try reading the question. With reference to palm oil, consider the following statements. The palm oil tree is native to Southeast Asia. The palm oil is a raw material for some industries producing lipstick and perfumes. The palm oil can be used to produce biodiesel. Yes. Don't worry if you did it wrong. You always have other chances. I put certain other chances over here to get it right. Don't worry if you got it wrong. Okay. Sure. Okay. So let me see. Almost 65% of you have marked the right answer. Where did you guys go wrong? Let's see that first. The leaderboard, as I tell in all my sessions, I will show you after the second question and after the fifth question. Okay. Then only there's some excitement around it, right? So now we won't be looking at the leaderboard right now. Hold it in the suspense part. Okay. The palm oil tree is native to Southeast Asia. Is it native to Southeast Asia? No, it is native to Africa. So again, the statement is wrong. The palm oil is a raw material for some industries which are there, which are lipstick, perfume, lipstick and all. I mentioned in the class specifically, this is correct. The palm oil can be used to produce biodiesel. Any kind of biofuels can be produced using palm oil. So this statement is also correct. Your answer is 2 and 3. Those who marked, the majority of you who got wrong, marked 1, 2, 3 as the answer. I believe you missed the beginning of the class where I clearly told you palm oil is native to Africa. Okay, now come on, let's see what questions you have put for me. Palm oil is native to which African country? Not any specific African country. You have Nigeria as a major producer at this point, but then in the earlier times, you had African countries which were relatively richer in when it comes to the rainfall. So it's not one specific country which is there. Africa as a region is what is being said as native to, because see, look at this, Southeast Asia. They have not specified Indonesia, Malaysia, nothing. So in the case of Africa also, it's the African region. Next question says Africa is mostly desert area. Who says this? Africa is not mostly desert area. You have the northern and the northwestern part of Africa, which is desert area around the equator. Remember that? We have the equator over there. And very near to the equator, you have when you learn geography, you would probably learn something called as what? Equatorial climate. What is the significance of equatorial climate? Very high rainfall, very marshy land, humid conditions. So around the belt of the equator, you have areas which have very high rainfall. So that first part where you say Africa is mostly desert is not right. Africa's major part, which is desert, is in the northern part. The rest of the country or the rest of the continent has rainfall where palm oil is cultivated. Now coming into so this is a question I saw a lot of you asking over here. Why do we use palm oil if it is so bad for the environment? Now the answer of it lies, and I normally tell, I think in my session 1 month ago, I think I've shared this with you. Palm oil has basically become part of the lifestyle. See, for example, coconut oil. Coconut oil is one oil which was again said that it is bad for the health benefits, or it's bad for the, and in some cases it's very water intensive, so you cannot cultivate it. But despite this, coconut oil is being used. One major reason being that we have, when it comes to our dietary requirements, a large part of it requires oil. The oils that we have in our country is not mass produced. Be it coconut, be it mustard, it's not mass produced. We still have a long way to go in the case of edible oil production. And this is the reason why we have to rely on other oils. So instead of palm oil also, if there's some other oil which is available, we would have relied on it. Why? Because in our own country, edible oil production is comparatively less in comparison to the demand that is there. This is the reason why we have to depend on oils like palm oil, sunflower oil, etc. Okay. Now coming into the next part is asked to safeguard the economic and business interest of the palm oil. Economic basically means that, see, I told you earlier, when Indonesia and Malaysia said we are not going to export palm oil, we all suffered. At that point, if you went to buy palm oil in the market, the prices of palm oil were over the roof. Means we as a consumer suffered because of their decision. To safeguard economic interest means at this point, the consumers should not suffer. So these countries came together to protect the consumer. So they will come as a group and say, you cannot just out of the blue stop the export. You have to face down the export if you are having a crisis. So whatever decision that they want, it will be taken together now. What is the benefit of India joining APOA? India is the largest consumer when it comes to palm oil, when it comes to the Asian region. India stands to benefit only because India is consuming a lot. If there is any crisis, it will be India taking the leadership to solve that crisis at this point. So even on a global international level, India stands to benefit. So now I hope this topic is being crystal clear to all of you. In that case, let's move on to the next topic, the Joy Mala case. I would say this topic is quite tragic, quite what I would say, it's something that is, very troublesome. Let's dive into the topic directly. Joy Mala is the name of an elephant. Okay. Now, what kind of elephant? Joy Mala is an Asian elephant. So we need to have some information about the categories that it belongs. Asian elephant is considered to be, for example, when you look at the entire elephant population around of Asian elephant, 60% of the Asian elephant exists in India. Apart from that, you have other countries like Vietnam, Cambodia. In all these other Asian countries also, you have the population, but a majority of the Asian elephant happens to be in India. There are 3 subspecies of Asian elephant. What is the meaning of subspecies? So, for example, if I'm saying Asian elephant, earlier, the one that occurred in India was called as Indian elephant. The one that occurred in Sumatra, which is in your Southeast Asian region, it was called Sumatran elephant. And the one that occurred in Sri Lanka was called as Sri Lankan elephant. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Hear that very clearly and give me the answer to this. If I tell you, Asian elephant is the largest mammal in the world, what is your answer? Is it true or false? Very good. I am teaching a bunch of very, very smart, what do you say, students over here. No, it is not the largest mammal in the world. If you look at it, if I'm saying, okay, if I'm modifying that statement into Asian elephant is the largest mammal in Asia, then is that statement correct? Yes. When I'm saying specifically Asia, because you do not have blue whale or your African elephant in Asia, if that statement is modified into Asian elephant is the largest mammal in Asia, then that statement can be considered true. I want you to note this point down, guys. Why? Because UPSC, sometimes, in an excitement, we might not read the entire statement. So understand, if in Asia is given, you can consider Asian elephant as the largest mammal when it comes to the Asian region. This is a statement directly picked from the WWF site. So the chances of it being asked are very, very high. Now coming into the reality of the ancient elephant, or the Asian elephant, sorry. In the case of the Asian elephant, if you look at the IUCN Red List, it has been endangered for a really long time. It got into the endangered status in the 1960s, and until now, it has still been in that endangered category, which means neither has its condition gone bad, nor has its condition gotten better. According to the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, it belongs to Schedule 1. What is Schedule 1? The animals which has the highest level of protection. What does endangered mean, guys? Endangered means, if you look at in the wild, the population of these elephants are not very high. Very soon, if there is more hunting or poaching of these animals, it might go on to the path of being critically endangered, and after that, it might get extinct. So endangered is that step before your critically endangered and extinct state. Okay. Now, if you look in the case of India, you have Karnataka, which has the highest number of elephants, followed by Assam and Kerala. Why am I giving you all this information? Why do you think all this information is relevant? Yeah, obviously, they are not going to ask you one question which is having the Joy Mala case directly. It is going to be asked from all these different angles. That is why I'm sharing this important information with you. So note it down in a proper manner. Now coming into the Joy Mala case. Now, before you understand the Joy Mala case, I want you to know one more current affair which happened in the last 1 year. very recently, our Wildlife Protection Act was amended. How many of you know that news? It happened in 2021 times. How many of you know that? Yes, some of you know, but I think most of you were not aware of it because some of you might not even have started your UPSC preparation at that point. See, Wildlife Protection Act of India is the one act which gives protection to animals all around it. Animals, plants, any kind of fungi, whatever is there, which is there in India as part of its biodiversity, is protected by the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Okay, so it has certain schedules and everything, and time and again that act keeps getting amended whenever there is some new issue at stake. Last year, the Wildlife Protection Act got amended. And here they took a very important decision. And this is the part where you pay attention, because if you don't understand this, you will not understand what Joymala case is about. Okay, so what happened is last year when they amended the Wildlife Protection Act, they made it very clear. They said, you are going to, or there is, when it comes to any wild animal, they clearly prohibited the trade, and trade means any kind of exchange using money of any wild animal which is there. When they said wild animal, obviously what was understood to all of us was any kind of captive animals. What are captive animals? What are these wild animals in the first place? You have animals which are there in the forest. Then you have some animals which are picked from the forest and put into zoos, into sanctuaries, and so on. Right? Those are actually captive animals. Why? You might not have like a cage around it, but they've been picked from one area and put into another place. So they are also considered as captive. Captive means the animals which are caught. Okay, so now you have certain animals which are in this category, and the Wildlife Protection Act said you cannot exchange or you cannot trade any of these wild animals or captive animals. And that included your wild elephant, captive elephant, so on. But then they went on and added one clause to it. They said, in the case of live elephant, this provision which said that you cannot have trade, it is not applicable. What is this live elephant? Live elephant, according to this act, means any elephant that is being domesticated and it is being used in the normal human activities which are there. In the case of live elephant, they said this prohibition is not there. Which means what? If the animal is occurring in the wild, you cannot trade it. But if the animal is occurring like you have domesticated it, then you don't mind trading it. So when they added this section over here, why do you think they added this live elephant? I mean, there should be somebody, they do not have any personal grudge against the elephant, right? Why did they do this? In India, as you know, most of you might be aware, elephants are seen as some kind of a religious symbol also. In several kinds of temples, in some wood industries, in all of these places, elephants are used. Okay, for it can be in the case of logging huge timber or huge wood pieces. It can be in temples. It can be in these processions which are there. In a lot of places, elephants are used. So they felt that in the case of live elephants, if you are banning the trade, how will all these activities happen? So they excluded the live elephants. So what happened? From the general prohibition which was there, live elephant got excluded. And thus the problem started. They created one section which said, in the case of live elephant, you can actually trade these elephants. You can exchange elephants for religious purposes and other purposes. Now, let me ask you, you are a citizen of the country. If in some law it is written other purposes, can you imagine that other purpose can be interpreted as anything? Which means tomorrow, if I want, I feel like okay, I need an elephant at my home. I need this elephant. So for me, that is a purpose. So I can go get an elephant from whatever situation that is there. I can go get the elephant. So in the act, they did not define what this other purposes is. and they added this religious purpose. And they said, only if it is these two things, you can actually trade the elephant. Now, the question here is, they said commercial sale and purchase of live elephants is no longer prohibited according to this. Don't you think when there is some law like this law can be misused? So they added one more clause which said, okay, even for religious purposes and other purposes, if you want to exchange the elephant should have a certificate of ownership. Only then can you exchange it for these purposes. So the law was actually trying to curb the idea that, see, if I'm having an elephant, I will get a certificate of ownership for it. If I'm getting the certificate of ownership, somewhere it is recorded in the government system. So they will have the correct number. If tomorrow something happens to that animal, I can be held responsible for it. This is what was the idea of the law. So in gist, to summarize it, what basically happened? If there is a live elephant, which is a domesticated elephant, it can be exchanged from one place to another. It can be traded from one place to another as long as it had a certificate of ownership. If it did not have a certificate of ownership, it is considered illegal. In India, when this law got amended, what started happening is, they just said live elephant. Live elephant is what according to the law? Anything that is domesticated. What people started doing is, they caught these elephants from the wild, and through very torturous techniques, and there are so many videos of it, it is impossible to actually watch these videos. Why? Because it like we do to maybe dogs or cats. It's not like you train it. For the elephant, they hit it, they torture it to an extent where that wild character of it is lost and it becomes very submissive. So what people started doing is, when this commercial trade of live elephants was not prohibited, poachers and hunters, they caught the elephants from the wild, they tortured it to an extent to make it into a domesticated elephant, and then started trading it. So now what has happened is, when they, right now according to the law, they are not doing anything wrong. Why? Because the live elephant is traded. But then to do that process, what they put the animal through is very, very torturous techniques. Is this part clear to all of you until this? Yes. Now coming into the Joy Mala case. Joy Mala is this elephant. It's not any other community or anything. It's this particular elephant. Now, there is a legal battle. It's the name of this elephant, by the way. Okay, there is a legal battle happening between Tamil Nadu and Assam in the name of this elephant. What is the problem here? Or what is the reason why this is happening? Now, the reason is because this wildlife, both of these states, they keep saying they have abided by the Wildlife Protection Act. But if you look at it, there has been some violation. This elephant, which is over here, is right now in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu government claims that it was sold to Tamil Nadu by a person in Assam. Okay, so this person in Assam, through a middleman, he has basically traded this elephant, and it is there in a temple in Tamil Nadu where it is doing its processions and everything. The news came to highlight why, because there were videos of torture of this animal that is being publicized. Okay, so this animal was heavily tortured, and the video, when it got public, so Tamil Nadu said, so no, we have not done too much of torture or anything. We got this animal from there, and this has been in our custody for the past several years. So they said, Tamil Nadu said, we have not violated any Wildlife Protection Act. Why? Because a person gave it to them as a live elephant. Live elephant means what? A domesticated elephant. And they have taken it over here, and it's used in a temple, which means it's used for religious purpose. Assam, on the other hand, says this is illegal. Why? Because this animal certificate of ownership, or Assam claims that Assam has given, or from that person whoever traded this elephant, has given this animal to Tamil Nadu for just a 6-month period time. And in 6 months, the certificate of ownership of this elephant is over. That means it's already over. Tamil Nadu has kept the elephant with it even after the certificate of ownership got expired. You have to keep renewing the certificate of ownership. So Assam says, right now, this elephant does not have the certificate of ownership. That is why Tamil Nadu is actually violating the law. So there is a legal battle going on. So obviously, the question will not come on the legal battle. Why is there a legal battle? The legal battle is there because this Wildlife Protection Act and the recent amendment to the act has made it possible for this animal to be exchanged from Assam to Tamil Nadu, maybe without the proper documentation. This is what the problem is. So now everybody is raising concern as to this amendment, which already was very controversial last year. We have to revisit this, and that is why the Joy Mala case is important. Is this clear to all of you? Yes, I sympathize with all the comments that you're saying. The video of it is impossible to watch, the way this animal has been tortured. Now coming into the reality of it. See, we do not know how the legal case will turn out to be, but what you have to understand is, right now, if you take the total number of elephants in India which are there in captivity, captivity basically means in the kind of, it can be with individuals, private individuals, it can be in the zoos and everything. Kerala, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, Assam, Tripura, and Madhya Pradesh account for almost 96% of the elephants in captivity without ownership certificates, which means there is no proof as to who owns it. Maybe in some cases, there was an environmental protection activist who said that one same ownership certificate is used for 4 different animals, 4 different elephants, because we cannot identify as humans, okay, this elephant is different from that. So for the same for 4 different elephants, the same ownership certificate is used. So the concern over here is not just about Joy Mala, it's about all these other elephants which are undocumented. They do not have ownership certificates, and for ages we have been trying Project Elephant and all these different projects, but still we are not able to better the condition of elephants in India, and this is the point of concern over here. Understood? Now coming into the prelims predictions over here. In the last few years, if you look, UPSC picks these very quirky schemes like this. For elephants also, there is a scheme called as Project Rehab. Okay. Now, this is interesting. Why? Because we were talking about protection of elephants. This comes from the fact that if you know, in a lot of cases, elephants, they move away from their groups. Okay. Maybe it might be a male elephant or something. They come and attack human population which is there, which means elephants are one of the reasons why there is man-animal conflict. What is man-animal conflict? These wild animals get into human settlements and destroy human lives, crops, etc. So, and when they do that, humans, on the other hand, they retaliate by either doing some kind of a very poisonous thing. There was even a case in Kerala where this animal was fed with crackers and to somehow scare it and go. So now these kind of things, very torturous things happen. So the Project Rehab, what it tries to do is to repel elephant attacks on human habitations using honeybees. It's interesting. Why? Because, so for example, if in the periphery of a sanctuary you have an area and after this there is a human settlement, what would happen is in these areas they will put bee boxes. These will be filled with honeybees and something. So these bee boxes will be connected with threads. When the elephant tries to cross threads, when I'm saying don't assume it's a small thin with threads which are there, quite huge ropes which are there. So when the elephant tries to cross this, what happens? These bee boxes will get rattled and the bees will come out. And elephants are considered to be very, very scared or very, very, wary when it comes to honeybees. So when these honeybees come out, what they do is the elephant goes back inside into the forest and does not attack the human settlement. This is a scheme devised by the Khadi and Village Industries Commission, and they have applied it in Nagarhole National Park. Can anyone tell me where Nagarhole National Park is? Karnataka, very good guys, very good. Nagarhole, they have implemented it and they feel that, okay, it was success in Nagarhole, so they are planning to implement it across other national parks also. This is one important thing that could be asked as a prelims question. Now coming into the other one, which is the elephant reserves in India. I've shared a map with you. Can you all see the map? It's all, I think it's pretty clear. It has all these different elephant reserves. I want you to do something and consider it like an assignment sort of a thing. One thing that hugely helped me when it comes to UPSC preparation is whenever there is any map like this, what I try to do is I personalize it. Meaning, after this class, what I would do is maybe I would take a free map of India, which has nothing marked on it, and I would mark this elephant reserves in it. I would study the elephant reserves by me only marking it in the map. This will help my memory also. So try doing this. Apart from that, look at all these elephant reserves. I'll give you some information regarding it. It's quite important. In India, there are totally 32 elephant reserves. And these 32 elephant reserves are spread over almost 16 states in India. Okay, so if you notice, your states like Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Punjab, they all do not have any elephant reserves. Only 16 states have the elephant reserves in India. Apart from that, if you look at it, the largest elephant reserve in size is your Mysore Elephant Reserve. That is over here, again in Karnataka. Why again is the Elephant Reserve important this year? In sometime around your May time of this year, May 2022, a new elephant reserve was added into the list. It is basically your Agastya Malay Elephant Reserve. And this is here. It's in Tamil Nadu. It's in the bottom part if you look at here. So this was added as the 32nd elephant reserve, and thus this also was there in current affairs. Now, would you have gone through all this if you were preparing just your Joymala case? No, you would not have gone through. That is why this has been provided. Is this information clear to all of you? Yes. Now coming into the question for the day. Which of the following statements are true regarding the Asian elephant commonly seen in news? The Asian elephant is an endangered species. There are over 40 elephant reserves in India. Gujarat and Rajasthan are the only two states with no elephant reserves. For this poll, I'm going to change the time to 30 seconds. Is that fine for all? Let's try this with 30 seconds. If it doesn't, it's not very happy for you, we will change it. Okay. Okay, so can I start the poll? Yes. Mark the answers, guys. No, you don't need to memorize all the 32 elephant reserves and all, Yuvaranjani. What you can do is just when you do the map itself, it will get into your mind. That is why I told do the map. Because if you just look at the map and said, Mysore Elephant Reserve, Nagarhole, that, you don't need to do it. Just do the map once, it will be there in your mind. Just keep revising it. You just have to have an idea of what is where. Okay? Yes, perfect. 74% of you have marked the right answer. Now, what is the answer over here? Asian elephant is an endangered species. Yes, it is an endangered species. There are over 40 elephant reserves in India. No, there are only... Okay, let me just show you the leaderboard, guys. Otherwise, you all will pounce on me if I don't show it. Can you all see the leaderboard? Yes. Okay. So I won't read out any names. I'll read out at the end if you want. Okay. Now coming over here, there are over 40. No, only 32. Gujarat and Rajasthan are the only two states with no elephant reserves. Wrong. You have other states also. You've Punjab, you've Maharashtra, all these other states which do not have elephant reserves. So I hope that topic is clear to all of you. Now let me just see what questions you've put for me. Live elephant basically means an elephant that is domesticated, like it would be there out in the wild, you capture it and you domesticate it, it becomes categorized as a live elephant as per the law given. Okay, according to the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, a live elephant is defined in these terms. Yes, the Prevention of Cruelty Act is also not protecting against these animals. Why? Because in this act, if you look at the Prevention of Cruelty Act, which is of 1960, and the Protection of Wildlife Act, which is 1972, the 1972 Act is something that can be questioned when it comes to, for example, it is a little bit more stricter in its terms. Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act takes cases against this, but then, for example, if you have to change the law, it has to start from protecting the wild animal itself, and that is done by the 1972 the Protection of Wildlife Act, which is there. This is why you cannot, or in these cases, your Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act does not come as very relevant. No, the previous law is also the 1972 Act, where in your case, for example, the Wildlife Protection Act 1972 is there from 1972. Every single or every 4 or 5 years, there is some amendment added on to it. Okay, so if you look at it, I believe there are almost 6 amendments to the Act already made, the 6th one being the most recent one, which is there. Okay, so I hope that is all clear to all of you. Now coming into the next topic, your draft Telecommunications Bill 2022. This is a topic, I would say, even without a prelims prediction, this topic can be considered important. Before we dwell into the telecommunications and all, I know you, because see, we constantly hear telecommunications. What is this telecommunications? What is, if I had to define telecommunications, what would it be like? So for example, when there is a passing of information from a source to a receiver via electronic means. This is called as telecommunication. I need to pass some information from one, it can be from one single person to other single person, from one single person to a group of people, whatever it is, you have a source, you have a receiver, and the information is passed through any electronic means. So when I'm saying electronic means, what all will come under it? Your email, voicemail, video, via phone, the normal phone that we used to have in our homes, your satellite-based communication services, all of these broadcasting services, all of this would be categorized as telecommunication services. Okay, so telecommunication services basically is the communication using electronic means. One other term you will constantly hear when we discuss this is called as spectrum. Now, spectrum in the normal sense, you will have a lot of meanings. You will have visible spectrum, X-ray spectrum and all that. In the case of this specific topic, spectrum means the range of frequencies of radio waves. What is this? See, when we use internet, okay, we have something called as your spectrum, which facilitates or which takes the signal. For example, I am calling you guys. I'm taking the phone. I'm putting your number. I'm calling it. After that, what is happening? What happens is this information that I'm reaching out to this number is passed via signals and it reaches to you. Now, in the case of internet, the signal that is passed is in the form of radio waves. What are radio waves? You have, when you study your science and tech, you will come across the idea that there are several kinds of waves which are there. Microwaves, radio waves, infrared waves. Here, in the case of internet connectivity, I use radio waves. Which means if I'm going to make a WhatsApp call to you, I would probably be using these radio waves, and that is how the call reaches to you guys. So spectrum basically means you have an entire range of radio waves that can be used in the form, or that can be used for internet service. So sometimes if the frequency is a bit lower, you will have some 2G service. If it's a bit more higher, you will have 3G, 4G, 5G services. Whatever it is, the communication happens via radio waves. Is this clear to all of you? Yes. Now coming into the bill. Now, a lot of you have already asked me, why do we need this bill? The answer to that question is here in this slide. India is, if you look at it, right now, India has almost 117 crore subscribers when it comes to your internet, mobile services, etc. Be it any of this, any communication services, if you look at it, there are almost 117 crore subscribers to it, thus making India the world's second largest telecommunication ecosystem. Now, I want you to answer, if India is the world's second largest telecommunication ecosystem, which would be the world's largest telecommunication ecosystem? Perfect, China. You all are very smart students, because obviously with the population that is out there, you will have that many more subscribers there onto your phone and internet and TV services. So India is the world's second largest telecommunication service ecosystem. It employs more than 4 million people and contributes to almost 8% of the country's GDP. What does that mean? The amount of economy that our country creates, 8% of it it is coming from all these internet services, all these, TV and radio and all these different services. Now, which means what? We are a very vibrant economy when it comes to telecommunication. But here is the catch. Until very recently, our entire telecommunications ecosystem was governed by 3 major acts. Your Indian Telegraph Act 1885, Indian Wireless Telegraph Act 1933, and your Telegraph Wires Act 1950. Can you all see? Our grandparents wouldn't be born at the time these acts were here, which means we are trying to deal with our internet service and all these over the top OTT services and all using acts which are so old. So at the time of Dalhousie and all these acts were there. Dalhousie is again a governor general. You will study in history, which means these acts needed to be improved. And thus enters your draft Telecommunications Bill 2022. So in this act, what we've tried to do is we've consolidated all the elements of this act, which is all these 3 different acts which are there. Whatever is important from it, we've taken it. But the rest of the part, for example, right now, the telegraph is not even there. You cannot send telegrams in India. Telegram idea itself is not there. So clauses related to that and all have been removed. And now they have given the new act. Why or what is the importance or what are the different features of this new act is where your prelims question would be. So what I've done is I've picked those specific provisions that can be twisted into prelim statements. The first one being, in this new act or new bill which is out there, they have included something as your OTT services, over the top services. Can anyone give me example of some over the top services? I know a lot of you do not know what OTT is. I will be explaining it right now. Netflix, huh? Everyone's saying Netflix. WhatsApp is also there, guys. WhatsApp is there, Telegram is there, Signal is there. All of these are over the top services. What is this over the top service? I'll tell you this. If you look at India, you have the telecom sector, which is your telecommunications sector, which has companies like your Airtel, Jio, Vodafone, etc. What these companies do, they are coming under very strict regulations, which means, for example, if Jio needs a license, they have to go through an entire process and they will get the license. And even after license is got, you will have a regulatory body called as the TRAI, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, which will come and be like, okay, you cannot do this. You shouldn't do that. So all these telecom industries in India are under very strict conditions. And why do we use any of these telecom services? For example, your Jio SIM or your Vodafone SIM. You normally, we will send messages through it. We can make calls through it and so on. Do any of you do that in these times? Very rarely we use it. Why? Because we have WhatsApp, we have Telegram, we have all these other messaging services which use the internet that Jio is giving, and we can use the calls and make the calls through it, make the messages through it, and so on. Now think about Jio. Jio is like, okay, our internet they are using, but they don't make calls via us. They don't use messaging services. And what is more, this WhatsApp and your Telegram or any of these other services, they are not scrutinized by your Telegraph or your TRAI authority, which is there. Why? Because it's an app. It's an app which is out there. So for a long time, these services were called over-the-top services, which means you have your normal telecom services, which you get through your SIM, and then you have all these other services which you get through your app. What they do is they just use the internet which is there, given by the telecom service, and they use all this, which means what? This telecom service is having loss of money. They are not getting any revenue, because earlier, imagine when WhatsApp was not there. I know you guys will find it very difficult to imagine a time where WhatsApp is not there, but I have lived in a time like that. You had to send messages. For each message, maybe 1 rupee or 50 paise would go. All this money used to go to whom? Your telecom service. Right now, I can send free messages using my WhatsApp. So these telecom authorities were going on saying, or telecom services were going on saying, these over-the-top services which are there, like your WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal and all, you have to bring it under the category of telecommunications, because essentially we are communicating using an electronic media over there. So then why it is not under the telecom services which is there? So these authorities were going on saying you have to put it under telecom services. And very recently, it is now being included, or all these OTT services which are there, it is now brought under the definition of telecommunications. Okay, is this clause clear to all of you? Yes. Second important thing. Now, you have to understand, in India, and this is a very probable UPSC question that is going to the second statement that I'm going to discuss. In this new act, they devised something called as the Telecommunication Development Fund. Now, this Telecommunication Development Fund is an improved version of something called as the Universal Service Obligation Fund, the USOF. Let's start from there. What is this USOF? You know, in India, we are now moving into a digital economy. Digital economy means what? Everything, your financial transactions, your day-to-day services, everything is going to happen via the internet. But then we also know the rural area in India is not having such very good internet connectivity. So now what started happening is, when this previous government or this current government that we have, they understood that, see, we need to have these services where your rural connectivity is improved. The people in the rural areas also should have better internet connectivity services. They needed to find some way to have all these telecom services actually create their infrastructure, like, towers and everything in the rural areas. But what you think, these in the normal case, the country is already having very less money. The country did not have more money to actually improve the rural connectivity. So what the country or the government said is that all these telecom companies which are there, your Jio, Airtel, they said, see, you all are making good money, no? You do one thing, some part of that money you put into improving rural connectivity. And they said, you don't do it. You just contribute to this fund, which is called as your Universal Service Obligation Fund. So your Universal Service Obligation Fund is basically a part of the revenue of the telecom companies, which is being used for rural connectivity programs. What will happen? The country will, or the government will, collect all this money into USOF, and wherever there is some rural area where there should be connectivity improved, they will contribute into that fund, or this USOF will use to improve the rural connectivity. But the telecom bill recently said it is not just the rural area where connectivity is not great. If you look at the urban areas also, in your slum-like areas, there is no proper internet connectivity. If in your, in the periphery of the urban areas, There is no there's no proper internet connectivity. So now what they said, instead of just focusing on your rural connectivity, let us have an improved fund, which is your telecommunication development fund, which will take care of the underserved urban areas also. So in the telecommunication development fund, it caters to both the underserved urban areas and the rural areas to improve the connectivity of these areas. And this is what is happening as the second clause. I would tell you, this bill is so important from the point of view, each of these terms could be asked as questions. USOF is related to what? Telecom sector. USOF, the primary aim of the USOF is rural connectivity. The primary aim of the Telecommunication Development Fund is both rural and urban connectivity. Okay, all of these could be asked. In your notes, I want you to put that into some color and, demarcate it. The next two clauses are quite happy for when it comes to a consumer. The bill says there will be a legal framework for preventing harassment of users from unsolicited calls and messages. Unsolicited calls, we all get it. Throughout the day, we get it. Through some place, do you want a loan? Do you want that? This is a sales call. Any call that we don't want, we constantly keep getting. Even after blocking, they call from different numbers. Now, this bill says there will be chance for us to take legal action against these people who are giving us unsolicited calls. So the legal framework as to what it will be, what is the penalty and all, will be discussed in the later versions of the bill. But right now, they've said there will be a legal framework for harassment against, when consumers are getting harassed, there will be a legal framework. This is actually something very good, no? Because every day, I can say personally for me, I at least receive 8 to 12 calls which are spam calls. Yeah, again, I see a lot of people who are actually supporting this. Now coming into the next thing, which again could be asked as a UPSC question, right of way actions. This bill will provide a legal backing to right of way actions. What is right of way? Just like the word says, see, now in most of the cases, you want internet connectivity. For example, in a rural area, they want internet connectivity. They have kept aside a land also so that someone can, or any telecom industry can come and create a tower over there. But what happens is the clearance of this land. See, if there is a land, it's a government land, the government has to give permission, no? Okay, you construct your tower over here. In India, that takes a really long time. The government giving the permission to construct the tower and put the wire and everything will take a really long time. So now, through this right of way action, what has been said is, if I am a private individual and there are 3-4 other families around, we are ready to contribute our land to create a tower. Okay, now I can do it. I can do it, and the tower can be constructed also. And if at all any compensation has to be provided to me, it will be between me and the telecoms, that company which is there. The government will not get involved in it. So right of way basically means, in this context of the bill, it means the right or the provisions for internet or your telecom companies to access private land for constructing the infrastructure. Right of way. Way means what? To move, to construct. Okay. So this right of way will be given a legal backing now. So now, even if I am an individual and I'm giving my land, I have to be protected, no? So for example, I am giving them some land, and tomorrow Jio is like, okay, this entire area is ours only. So I have to be protected by that, right? So for all those purposes, this bill is going to give legal backing. So from the consumer side and from the telecommunication sector side, we have all these different provisions. Very, very good provisions, I would say. Now coming into another area where the bill is very focused on, your spectrum management. In the case of the specific act, they have mentioned that the rights, as I told you, what is spectrum? We discussed that in the beginning. In the case of the spectrum, they have mentioned the entire control of the spectrum is with the central government of India. So the central government can decide whom to give what area of the spectrum. Earlier, so the rights of the spectrum can be assigned by the central government. Complete control of the spectrum lies with the central government. Now, if I'm having a bulk of spectrum for 5G, okay, so the central government can either hold an auction or it can conduct an administrative process. Meaning, for example, if the central government by itself wants to say, okay, until now, Airtel has been doing a good job when it comes to the 5G spectrum, so we will grant the spectrum to Airtel. This is an added provision over here. So either by an auction means you put the spectrum, you ask all the telecom companies who will say, so Jio will probably say 500 crores, the other person will say 600 crores, and whoever gives the highest money, they will take it. Otherwise, based on certain criteria, the government will only grant the spectrum to a specific telecom company. So an auction or an administrative process is done to distribute the spectrum. In the case of the specific spectrum also, it is being said that, for example, Airtel took all the spectrum. Airtel was hoping to do very well. But then Airtel was in a state of bankruptcy. Bankruptcy means what? It is not being able to pay back its shareholders. It is going into a situation where it is in complete loss. So now what will happen? Airtel has this new spectrum with them. So the central government what it will do? The spectrum will go back to the central government. Airtel might have bought it, but if Airtel goes into bankruptcy, the central government will take control. Why is this so important? This provision is so important. Why? Because until very recently, if Airtel took the spectrum, Airtel is not having so much of money, no. So Airtel might have taken a bank loan to buy the spectrum. And if Airtel goes into bankruptcy, this spectrum goes to the bank. Okay, now going to the bank, it might not have any use with it, right? So now there was a lot of confusion. Why is it going to the bank? So now here, the central government said, no, it will not go to the bank. It will come to us. It will come back to the central government and we will redistribute it to whoever who wants it. So in the case of spectrum management also, the telecom bill has said quite few things. Finally, coming into the controversial part. All these other provisions can be considered as good. But in the case of the controversial part, the first one, try looking into it. There will be an authorized officer who can actually tell, for example, there will be an officer, my entire details, my call records, message records, everything is with these telecom companies, right? So there will be a specialized authorized officer who can direct the service provider to furnish any information, document, any evidence related to a subscriber in the case of a civil or criminal proceeding. Which means if there is a case going on in my name, even without my permission, my entire data can be taken by the special officer and used for investigation. This is quite controversial. Why is this quite controversial? Where is my privacy here? It's a breach of my privacy. It's a breach of the fact that I am trusting this telecom company and putting all my data. No, I'm talking whatever details is there. I'm trusting they are going to protect my privacy. But then very easily, according to this act, someone, if there is a civil or criminal proceeding, they can actually take my data and actually use it for this procedure. How many of you think this has to be controversial? Why? Because this is a breach of our individual privacy. Yes, there are a lot of people who say both yes and no because, sometimes it's trying to protect national security. But then again, the question comes over here is that don't I have any kind of right over my own data? Okay. The second controversial thing is, I told you there is something called as Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, TRAI. The TRAI is like the big brother. If any telecom company is doing anything bad, TRAI will come in and TRAI will be the one saying that you shouldn't be doing this, thereby doing a regulatory function. In this act, TRAI basically got diluted. Diluted means TRAI got very weakened. How did TRAI get weakened? What happened is, earlier, before even giving license to any company which is out there, it will be, or the central government will ask TRAI, hey, what do you think? Are they good? Are they ethical? Are they having all the conditions clear? And the TRAI would be like, yes, they're good. It's a recommendatory body. TRAI would be like, give them the license. Now, central government is like, we don't need your license. We don't need your recommendation and all. If we feel like giving the license, we will give the license. So TRAI will no longer be consulted before a license is granted to a service provider. Thereby, that kind of a regulation which is there is now lost. So these are the controversial parts of this bill. But on the whole, if you look at it, it is a bill that is going to be there in the coming days. If you just Google TRAI, not TRAI, your draft telecommunications bill, it's now put out there in the public for all of us to look into and actually judge. Like if we have any comments, we can place it right now. Anyway, these are the provisions of the bill. The bill as it is important, so there is no extra prelims prediction for this. The entire area of the bill can be a prelims question. Okay. Now coming into the poll question, the telecom sector in India is in a state of progress and the recent draft telecom policy is a step in the right direction. In this context, which of the following statements are true? The primary aim of the Universal Service Obligation Fund is to improve rural connectivity. The ultimate control of the spectrum in India lies with the central government. I think it's a very, very simple question. You can mark this. I'm going to give only 30 seconds for this. I think all of you can mark this in a very easy manner. Okay, mark your answers, guys. Oh yes, you've marked your answers. 78% of you have marked the right answers, but I actually expected more of you to mark this answer correct. The primary aim, no leaderboard guys, leaderboard after the 5th question. Don't worry, okay? The primary aim of the Universal Service Obligation Fund is to improve rural connectivity. Yes, it was the primary aim of the USOF. The new Telecommunications Development Fund is the one that is focused on more like larger goals like urban connectivity and so on. First statement is correct. The ultimate control of the spectrum in India lies with the central government. Yes, in India, the control lies with the central government. Both 1 and 2 are correct. Where did you guys get confused? Now, let's see your questions for this. Yes, how is OTT included in this draft? The first point that I said, OTT was not acknowledged in any of our act until now. For the first time, OTT is considered as part of the telecommunication sector which is there. OTT means all of these services. Anything which is over the top is now brought under the category of telecommunications, which means any law that applies for telecommunication will be applied for OTT services also. That is how it has been part of the law. Yes, this bill is applicable to all the telecom sectors. BSNL, Jio, I personally did not say BSNL because the first terms that come are all your Jio, Airtel and all this. It is applicable to BSNL also. Next question. Okay. So if the telecom, think about this. I have a question here. It's very interesting over here. If the telecom services are not able to make money due to invent of the OTT services, why do they provide schemes like this? So now look at this. They are not able to make money is one thing. Second thing is what? I keep recharging my internet services. So until now, though they were suffering a loss that came from instant messaging services and direct call services, they were trying to somehow put in very lucrative internet deals. If you notice, most of these companies have very lucrative 4G service packages, 3G service packages. That is what they're trying to do. They are trying to make sure that the consumer at least recharges his internet in maybe 1 or 2 months so that at least revenue stream comes about. But now, since the telecom draft has actually acknowledged OTT services, now what will happen is services like WhatsApp, Telegram and all, they will also have to pay like a license fee. They will also have to pay some kind of they will have to give contribution to the USOF. So whatever Jio and Airtel and all are doing, they will also have some provision related to all these other services. Okay. Now coming into this topic is the next topic, TIF losses. Now let me just ask you one thing before I go into the topic. You all have, I've just told you the word, TIF losses. What do you think it is? Normally, this is how UPSC puts a question, right? They'll put some word like this and they'll ask, it's a virus causing highly infectious fever. It's a weed that has led to massive wheat crop failure. A giant Jurassic era dinosaur species. Which of these do you think it is? Or is it anything other than this? A lot of you are getting stuck over here. Now, surprise guys, it's none of this. I will teach you what TIF losses is. The reason why I put over this is, see, when you get a term like TIF losses, the common options, if you look at the pattern of options given, it will be either a virus, a weed, or dinosaur species. Dinosaur you can easily eliminate. Why? Because when it comes to certain dinosaur species, most of the topics which are there, it will have like Typhlosaurus or some saurus along with it. So you can, at least by guesswork, eliminate this. But then you will get stuck with these both. This was shown to give you an idea about how UPSC tends to use this information. Now we will go into the actual TIF losses. TIF losses is basically this organism that you see over here. What is TIF losses? TIF losses is one of the most mysterious creatures that scientists have encountered in the world. This is so mysterious, so much so that this was discovered sometime in the 1960s using this fossil which was there. Can you see this fossil over here? In this area called as Montana in America, in the Western American region, they discovered this fossil and they thought it was a fish. Why did they think it was a fish? Because according to this, and this picture is an imaginative picture, obviously they did not take a photograph of this. According to the fossil, it felt like it had all the characteristics of a fish. But some things were missing. For example, if I'm telling a fish, it will have a fin, it will have a body, it will have eyes, it will have two fins. My fish is very awkward looking, but then you get the idea. This is the idea of a fish. This animal, which was discovered in the 1960s, and the fossil over here, it had the fins. It had the body also. But when you looked inside, when you looked inside the digestive tract, it did not have an excretory system. Fish has an excretory system. It did not have a mouth-like structure. Fish has a mouth-like structure, It did not have that. So scientists were very confused. What is this organism? They kept on calling it alien goldfish. Alien because it was very weird. It looked like a weird shape, but it was not fully like a fish. And they assumed from the fossil that it existed almost 300 million years ago. Okay. And for until very recently, they kept believing it was a fish. But in the last 1 week, that has changed. Because look at this. Until now, they said it has a tail fin. It has a full, it has an entire digestive system, but it has no excretory system. So they were very confused. Very recently, they discovered something. They said, inside this organism, it is having something called as a radula. A radula is basically, for example, from this, can you see this part which is there? From this initial part, it goes inside the digestive system of it. And inside the digestive system, it's like a ribbon-like thing. So the outer part will be over here. Inside, it will be like this. And inside this, it is having teeth-like structures, like our sharp teeth. And thus, for the first time, when they looked at that fossil, the scientists were going on doing experiments on it. When they finally found this, they discovered that it is not a fish. It is a mollusca. What is a mollusca? Mollusca is basically a group of animals which can come, for example, it is seen on the land, it's seen on the water, all these snail, that small snail-like organisms, the prawns that we eat, the octopus that is there, all of these belong to this category called as mollusca. They are not fish. Okay, why? What is one defining feature of mollusca? They might have this kind of a shell around them. For example, if anyone's had prawns, you will see it has a shell around it. If you've seen a snail, it will have some small body around it. It will have a shell around it. So these organisms, which have all these different features, are called as mollusca. And the scientists said this is actually a mollusca because it has this thing called as a radula. Why is this so important to us? Why are we even discussing this? We're discussing this because if it is a mollusca, it is considered to be one of the first mollusks that were alive. Understand? Before the prawns, before the octopus, we had Typhlosis. And this will change how we understand evolution of these prawns and other organisms. So from a biological point of view, this organism is very important. Is this clear to all of you? It's a very small topic, but very powerful. Why? Because this question, as I told in the beginning, can be asked from UPSC point of view, and we will end up marking virus and disease and everything. Yes, perfect. So this is all clear. It's a very small topic. Next, we go on to the fifth topic for the day, PM Pranam scheme. PM Pranam scheme is basically the expansion of it is Prime Minister's promotion of alternate nutrients for agriculture management yojana. What is this alternate nutrients? What are we currently giving plants? We are giving fertilizers. But PM Pranam Yojana says, no, they have called it alternate nutrients. Means, tell me, those who have a little bit of insight, what would the scheme be about? They are somehow trying to reduce the dependence that we have on chemical fertilizers, and they are trying to find some specific good substitutes for instead of chemical fertilizers. So your PM Pranam scheme is a scheme to reduce the use of chemical fertilizers by incentivizing states. What is incentivizing states? You try, see, the government wants to reduce the usage of chemical fertilizers, but how are they going to do it? They are now going to focus on each of these different states, and they're trying to do something over there, which is what we will explore in this topic. So why do we need this PM Pranam scheme? To understand that, you have to understand the fertilizer scene in India. In India, we are majorly using 4 types of fertilizers. What are fertilizers in the first place, guys? You add something, chemical kind of things, to the plant so that the plant grows in a very healthy manner. It will have, or it will be very nutrient rich, and it will help the plant grow in a proper manner. These are fertilizers. In India, we mostly use chemical fertilizers like urea, diammonium phosphate, muriate of potash, and NPK, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. You don't need to learn these terms by heart, but understand the major 4 fertilizers used in India are these 4. Okay, now think about the agriculture scene in India. We are still dependent on agriculture for our crop needs, which means every year the crop yield should be good enough. If the crop yield should be good enough, and again, if it has to grow and give so much of yield, you need fertilizers. So the farmers are dependent on the fertilizers of the country. Now, what has happened is, over the last few years, the requirement of fertilizers that the farmer needs has increased by almost 21%. More and more, because why do you think this is increasing? See, in one soil area, I'm going on cultivating. After a point, the nutrients of the soil will be worn out. There will not be enough nutrients. I will have to substitute for it. Now, if I have to substitute for it, what has to be done? I need to add extra fertilizers to it. This is why in the last few years, the requirement or the need for fertilizer has increased by 21%. Until here, it is fine. But comes the catch, which is, see, the farmers, if you look at the price of fertilizers in India, if you look at the price that they want to sell it off in the market, for 1 ton of fertilizers, it will be up to rupees 23,000, from somewhere between 17,000 to 23,000. If you look at all these different this thing, do you think an average Indian farmer, and this is just for 1 ton of fertilizers, an average Indian farmer can afford to splurge so much money on this? No, he cannot. So what happens is, in India, the farmer buys the nutrients or buys the fertilizer at a government mandated price. That will be like around 5,000 rupees per ton. So the farmer is buying it at 5,000 rupees per ton. But these fertilizer companies, don't you think they want to sell it at 23,000? So instead of selling it at 23,000, they're selling it at 5,000 to the farmer. So now something has to be compensated to these companies, right? So to these companies, the government gives fertilizer subsidy, which means this additional, what you say, maybe 12,000 or whatever amount is there, it is being given as subsidy to the fertilizer company, so that the fertilizer company is not having any loss. This is what is happening in India for a really long time. Okay. But if the requirement of fertilizer is increasing, which means the government will have to give more money as fertilizer subsidy. And do you think India is in that condition where it can go on giving money to fertilizer subsidy? It is being said that almost 39% of increase will be there in the amount that the government is paying as fertilizer subsidy, which means in 2023, in the end of financial year 2023, almost 2.25 lakh crore will be given as fertilizer subsidy to several companies. This is a very huge amount. So now you all understand why we need PM Pranam scheme. You cannot keep depending on these fertilizers again and again. Why? Because the subsidy bill of the government is so high, and thus the government said, let's focus on finding different other solutions instead of fertilizers. So now, even for the scheme, they have to somehow devise a method. They cannot give extra fund for this, no? So for example, already the government is not having so much of money, and the fertilizer subsidy is also so much over there. So for this specific scheme, they have not kept any separate fund. Then how will this happen? How will the scheme work? This is the interesting part. What they have tried to do over here is, the states which have used in the most of the agriculture states of India, they keep using your chemical fertilizers. So what has been done is, the states that used fewer chemical fertilizers in a specific year, in comparison to the last few years, they will be rewarded. Which means if I am Rajasthan and I want to actually, keep into mind that, I shouldn't be using chemical fertilizers, I will somehow try to have organic fertilizers. I will try to have some bio fertilizers. And using all this, my chemical fertilizer consumption will be reduced. So when the government looks at it, in comparison to my last 3 years, right now, Rajasthan might have lesser fertilizer consumption. At this point, the central government is like, okay, Rajasthan is doing this, so let's reward Rajasthan with some money. This is why it was said it is incentivizing states. Only when the states take a measure to reduce the chemical fertilizers, they will be given some grant. And what is this grant? Basically, what is going to happen is, see, earlier maybe the government had to give 2.25 lakh crore as subsidy. When all these different states started doing this Pranam scheme and they are trying to actually reduce their chemical fertilizer consumption, maybe only 1.25 lakh crore has to be paid as subsidies. Why? Because nobody is going on depending on chemical fertilizers. They all are doing all these different things, which means this gain of 1 lakh crore that has been there. Earlier, the government had to pay 2.25. Because all these states started doing all these good measures, only 1.25 has to be given as subsidy to different companies. Which means this 1 lakh crore that the government saved, what they will do? To those states which have been performing well in the case of fertilizer consumption, they are not using so much fertilizer, they will be rewarded. Almost 50% of this, for example, if it's 1 lakh crore which is there, 0.5 lakh crore of it will be passed on or will be given as a grant to those states which have been performing well. Is this part clear to all of you? Where are your responses, guys? I'm not able to see it. Yes, 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 yes. Grant basically means you will be giving out the money. It will not come like it will, sometimes it will have a very low interest rate. Sometimes it will have no interest rate at all. In the case that the Indian government gives, the grants given to states are mostly without any interest rate. It's like a gift sort of a thing, you can say. So there is no separate fund, and this is actually given to, in this form, all the states. So those states which are doing good will get more, or much more better funds which are there. And how will the central government determine if they are doing better or not? And this is your prelims one area over here. The central government will determine if a state is doing well or not using the IFMS, the Integrated Fertilizer Management System. What is the Integrated Fertilizer Management System? If you look at it, it is an IT-enabled system where, if you look at it, it's like a full portal. Whatever fertilizer is being produced, moved, available, the sale which is happening, whatever, everything related to the fertilizer of a specific state, the data related to it has to be put into the Integrated Fertilizer Management System. Looking at it, they will determine, or the government will determine, which one has to be given more money or not. So this is like a portal. This is like a digital portal which will grant all these data for the government. Now coming into the extra prelims prediction over here. This topic that I'm going to discuss is a hot favorite of UPSC. And the reason why it will be asked this year, or has a chance to be asked, is because in the PM Pranam scheme, we are saying we have to somehow find alternate nutrients for fertilizer. One very popular alternate nutrients is your biofertilizers. What are biofertilizers? Biological products containing living microorganisms. For example, algae, fungi, bacteria, these kind of organisms which have the ability, when it's put into the soil, they will try to actually do certain chemical reactions over there, and whatever nutrients is there, it will be given to the plant. You all must have heard about nitrogen fixing, etc., right, when you study environment. So things like that will happen, and using these biofertilizers, you can actually improve the quality of the soil, and the plant will also grow properly. So biofertilizer is used for plant growth. You have algae, fungi, bacteria, all of these can be used as biofertilizers. And these fertilizers are made into the form of 1 gram capsules, and it is given to the public, or it's given to the farmer that is in need. Now coming into the probable question that is there, look at all these names. I want you to write down these names into whatever current affair book you are looking at. Azolla, blue-green algae, Azospirillum, Azotobacter, Rhizobium, nostoc. These are all the important biofertilizers, or the biological organisms that are being used as fertilizers. Once again, Azolla, blue-green algae, Azospirillum, Azotobacter, Rhizobium, nostoc. Now, when I show you the next question, you will understand why this is important. This has already been asked as a previous UPSC question. Okay, now they can ask an improvement on it. I wanted to answer this question, so I am going to put the poll out there. Consider the following organisms. You can look into all the statements. Yes, you all can start marking the answer now. So they are asking Agaricus, nostoc, Spirogyra, which is used as a biofertilizer. Yes, you can see here Agaricus and Spirogyra was not there in the list. Agaricus is a fungi, but it is not used as a biofertilizer. Only nostoc is used as a biofertilizer. Both Agaricus and Spirogyra are not used. Now you understand this is a previous UPSC question. So you have to know. That is why I said that list of names is very important. Keep a note of it. 59% of you have marked the right answer. Good job, guys. So the answer over here is B, 2 only. Now coming into, let me see the questions that you've put. Okay. Yes, see, the reason why, again, one person has expressed over here, the practice of using chemical fertilizer might be nearly impossible to stop. But the fact is that if we keep using chemical fertilizers, the quality of the soil is also getting very, it's getting degraded. So right now, they are measured this way so that they can focus not just biofertilizers, any alternate nutrients which are there can be focused upon and used in these kind of measures. So it will take some time before the attitude of farmers do change over here, but this has to be done if future degradation has to be prevented. Now let's move on to the next topic, the DART mission. So now I want you all guys to do something. If you have a phone with you or any other system with you, like not the one that you're using the class in, I just want you to go to Google and type out DART mission in the Google bar. You all can do it right now and see what happens. Once you go, take it, wait for a few seconds and see what happens. Did you all see that? You have something like a satellite, will come onto the screen and then it will blast off and your entire screen will get tilted. Yes, 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 yes. So here, now what is this? And that is the thing that we're going to discuss this. What is this DART mission? So now, if you have to understand DART mission, you have to first understand something called as asteroids. All around in our space, we have certain rocky objects, which are huge masses of rock, which are orbiting around the sun, and they are actually smaller than planets. So that's why you cannot call it like a planet sort of a size. It's smaller than planets, but it keeps orbiting around the sun. It will have its own specific orbit also. Sometimes they're called as minor planets. And in some cases, these asteroids, these huge rock-like things, they might come very close to the Earth and it can be into a position where it comes and crashes onto the Earth, thereby making the chance that some asteroids are potentially hazardous. We all have seen all these American movies where they're saying, okay, this asteroid is going to come and hit the Earth. Now, the point is, these potentially hazardous asteroids, they might come and hit the Earth, which means we need to devise some method to prevent this coming and hitting the Earth. We cannot be like, okay, yeah, asteroid is coming, we'll deal it when it happens. Now, NASA said, no, we cannot just deal it like that. We need a mission for it. And thus, last year, in November 2021, they sent out the DART mission, the Double Asteroid Redirection Test. Double Asteroid Redirection Test. It is a NASA mission. And what are they going to do in this NASA mission? They felt that, see, so I'm walking like this. If somebody comes and hits me, like a huge person, they're coming and hitting me, obviously, I will have a tilt, right? I will have a tilt or I'll have a movement change because I'm going on walking. If somebody comes and hits me from back or from the side, the way I'm walking will be, or I might fall, I might move apart from the way I'm walking. It has happened to all of us, right? So NASA was like, okay, if suppose there's an asteroid, if you go and hit the asteroid with so much of force, maybe that asteroid's shift or that asteroid will shift from its path and it will not come and attack Earth. Okay, so NASA thought about this and NASA said it is going to be, we are sending out this mission, which is going to be the first ever mission to investigate and demonstrate a method of asteroid deflection. So what they're trying to do is, there is this asteroid, you go and hit the asteroid. If the asteroid was earlier moving in one direction, when you go and hit it, maybe the asteroid's direction will change. And they're saying maybe it can be possible. They just want to test it out. And through this, they have called it the DART mission. Double asteroid redirection test. Redirection means what? They're changing the direction of the asteroid. So for example, if this asteroid is coming very fast to the Earth, you go and hit it with something on this side, asteroid will change its direction and move away from the Earth. So this method by which, as this NASA has called it, is called as kinetic impact. Changing the direction of an asteroid by kinetic impact. What does kinetic means? Kinetic means moving. You have something which is moving at a fast speed, coming and hitting the asteroid, changing the direction of the asteroid. And this is considered to be the first ever planetary defense mission. You are trying to protect the Earth using these different techniques. Planetary defense. Planetary means what? Here the planet is Earth. Defense means what? You're trying to protect it. So this is the first ever planetary defense mission. Are the features until here clear to all of you? Yes, perfect. Now, so I have just said, now to choose this for this mission, they have chosen this asteroid called as, you have two asteroids in connection over here. You have this big one called as Didymos and a smaller one which is surrounding or going around Didymos called as your Dimorphos. Let's look at this diagram here. You have Didymos which is in the middle, this one, and you have a Dimorphos. Mind you, these asteroids are as of now not a threat to Earth. They just wanted to experiment it, so they have chosen these asteroids where the scientists can easily study it. So now using these two asteroids, what has happened is this DART mission, which is weighing almost 550 kilograms, 550 to 600 kilograms, it's going to go and hit this Dimorphos, which is over 5 billion kilograms. Their idea is, the scientists have done the calculation, they're like, this will have some impact. We just have to study what the impact is. So now what has happened is, today morning, this DART mission, which set off from Earth on last November, it reached Dimorphos. It went and hit Dimorphos. And this is the image. It is so interesting, guys. After this class, I want you all to see the video of it. It moves closer to Dimorphos. You can see why, because in the front of that spacecraft, there is a camera which is going close to the Dimorphos over here. It comes as close as this, and then it's hit. It's basically a suicide mission. The spacecraft went and hit over there, and then you don't have any signal. Now the scientists have to study what change has it created to the asteroid's movement. Obviously, the asteroid is not going to get destructed or anything. The asteroid's movement path will be changed, and now they're planning to study it. So this is what has happened over here. Now, if you look at it, this is actually part of the Near-Earth Observations Program of NASA. What is this Near-Earth Observations Program? This is one probable prelims angle over here. The Near-Earth Observations angle or the Near-Earth Observations Program is basically the fact that around the Earth, which is there, you have a lot of these asteroids, comets, all these different structures that can come and maybe harm the Earth. The Near-Earth Observations Program basically tries to find, track, and characterize at least 90% of all the near-Earth objects which are there. So any near-Earth objects which are almost 140 meters in size, which is quite large, this program will find it and they will determine, is it actually harmful for the Earth or not harmful for the Earth? Okay, so these near-Earth objects can be asteroids, comets, any of these structures. And NASA has been trying to find out all this. And by finding out all this, they are feeling that if anything is coming close to the Earth, we can prevent it. It's a very beautiful program, I would say. How many of you understood this? Perfect. Now, one other prelims angle over here. I want you guys to note this down very clearly. Look at this. Now, this might be the first mission where it has gone and hit into an asteroid, and they have tried studying how much deflection it is there. Even previously, what has happened is not onto an asteroid, but to a comet. What is a comet? A comet is basically a rocky body which has ice, dust, etc. When it goes close to the sun, what happens is this ice part of it and the vapor part of it, the gas part of it, it will catch fire, thereby having kind of a tail-like structure. So you all must have seen, you must have heard your grandmothers and all talk about this, called as shooting stars. It looks like it has a tail and it's moving across the skies. So you have these structures which are there. So NASA's Deep Impact mission, once in 2005, has gone and hit into a comet. That is not to study the path of the comet, but it is to understand if the comet has what all minerals it has and all these things. So when it went and hit, obviously some dust and all came out of it, no? There was another spacecraft nearby which collected all this dust. This is what the Deep Impact mission did. So there is a Deep Impact mission by NASA, happened in 2005. Then you have some other missions like your Hera. Hera is basically a mission by your ESA, European Space Agency, which is going to happen in 2024. What is the importance of Hera? In the case of Hera, this dart which has happened right now, obviously the asteroid might have moved a bit, no? Hera will go and study it. Hera will go and be like, okay, how much it has changed. This is the mission that Hera is. So these both could be asked as questions. Apart from this is just to drive your imagination out there. Look at this. In this mission, an asteroid was there. Something went and hit the asteroid and changed the path. Okay. Now, NASA scientists, there are a lot of scientists who believe this asteroid, even without hitting it, maybe we can change the path. So one method they're thinking is called as gravity tug. What is gravity tug? See, obviously, I am now standing on this earth, how the gravity is pulling me over here. Now, the scientists feel, what if we have some kind of a system whereby which there is so much of gravitational pull on an asteroid? So what happens is, if suppose this is an asteroid and there is something that is pulling the gravity or giving the gravity to this asteroid which might be in some orbit, and that orbit, if it falls, it will come and fall onto the earth. Using the gravitational pull, I'm going on pulling this asteroid away from that path. This is a very hypothetical idea, but they are thinking about it. Maybe in the matter of maybe 50, 60 years, they might have this technique. Then the next technique that they have is something that we see all in movies, but the scientific name for it is nuclear ablation. The idea is they might go and use a nuclear weapon and break the asteroid. You might actually bomb the asteroid with a nuclear weapon, and thereby the asteroid will not come and fall onto the earth. But again, these are all very imaginary techniques or a theoretical techniques which are there. The actual technique which has happened right now is the kinetic impact technique. Is this clear to all of you? I think this is a very interesting topic, guys, because imagine this. When you see that video, you'll understand how important this is. Now coming into the prelims question, I want you all to mark this very carefully. This is the 5th question and I'll be showing the leaderboard after this. So you have deep impact, you have all these choices. Look at it carefully. Let me just launch the poll. Okay, I'm launching the poll. You just have to find out which is marked correctly or matched correctly. Okay. Yeah. Once you mark the answers, I can. Okay, again, 52% of you have marked the right answer. See the leaderboard, guys. You all can see the leaderboard. I can see a lot of you who've got all the answers correct. Good job, guys. Wow. Whoa. I'm very happy. I guess all of you who've marked it have seen your names. Look at this. Deep Impact Mission. Is it by your CSA? CSA is what? Canadian Space Agency. No. Deep Impact Mission was by NASA. And again, is it by it's an asteroid mission? No. Deep Impact was a comet mission. Hera. Hera is what? Hera, is it a comet mission? No. It is an asteroid mission. And is it by ESA? Yes, it is by ESA. But here, the statement is wrong. Why? Because it is written it's a comet mission by ESA, which renders the statement wrong. It is an asteroid mission by ESA. Finally, DART mission, which is asteroid mission by NASA. This is the only correct statement out there. So your answer is the only, and that is it. Okay. Now coming into the last and final topic, it's a very, very small topic, but it is going to be a term that you're constantly going to hear in your newspapers in the coming days. It's called as moonlighting. What is this moonlighting? Again, very recently you must have seen the news which says Wipro fired almost 300 employees for working for competitors. They have called it, they were moonlighting. Moonlighting basically is the act of working at an extra job beyond your regular working hours, usually without the knowledge of the employer. So what is happening? I have a regular job where I'm getting my salary and everything. After the time that I'm having, maybe my job is only 8 hours. After that, I'm working another job. It can be for a competitor. It can be anything. It can be like a hobby. I'm just making cakes and selling off. Whatever it is, that is called as moonlighting. I'm working an extra job in the extra time that I get after my job hours. Okay. So now Wipro has made this such an issue. Wipro said, no, you cannot do this. Moonlighting is basically cheating, is what they have said. They said, no, you cannot do this because what if you are actually working for our competitor? This is a huge issue which Wipro has put out. So Wipro says, when you do this activity, after your job or before your job, whenever you're doing it, you might have conflict of interest. Meaning, for example, I'm working for Wipro. After my work hours, I'm going and working for Infosys. Infosys is also another IT company. I am like the code developer for both of this. So this is a conflict of interest. Whom will I care more? Whom will I give my more efficiency? This is a question, right? So again, Wipro says, if you're working for a competitor, this is not right. Data confidentiality. If I'm working for a specific company and I'm working on very important projects, I might know data related to it. If I'm going to the competitor and working, then I can actually give that data over there. So the data is not protected when it comes to IT companies. But understand, moonlighting is not something that is just there for IT companies. I can moonlight. Maybe I'm a Swiggy driver. Okay. After I work some 8 hours for Swiggy, I might go home and take part in some other. I might be a chef at home. I can do that also. So the industry is now divided. Moonlighting, is it bad? Is it good? But again, the question comes, if I am in a specific company, when I enter into that company, I would have signed some agreements. No, I should not do this. I should not work for a competitor. So companies like Wipro, companies like your Microsoft and all feel that if somebody is moonlighting, they're going against the code of conduct of the institution. But the individuals are saying, see, what I do in my personal time is none of your concern. It's my personal wish if I want to work for someone. But then again, these IT companies have said, personal time, it's all right, but you should not have signed a contract with us if you're doing this. So again, comes to the fact that they also feel if you're working 2 or 3 different jobs, at every point, it's a human only working, no? So your productivity also might be reduced. So there is a loss of productivity, there's a conflict of interest. And adding on to this, you are not telling your other employer that you're working over here. So these companies feel there is no transparency. If I'm telling them, it makes sense. Now, let me ask you, do you think it's legal or illegal according to Indian law? Is moonlighting legal or illegal according to Indian law? Where are your answers? Have you all mentioned anything? Is it legal or illegal? What do you guys think? Okay, a lot of you are saying it is illegal. But let me tell you, in the Indian scene, you have not, or they have not defined moonlighting under any laws. It is not defined under any statute when it comes to the employment laws which are there, which means we are not able to determine if it's legal or illegal just based on the laws, the employment laws which are there. And it has even been said that when you're moonlighting, it is not necessarily dual employment. Why? Because see, I'm working in one company. I'm getting my salary, my PF, my incentives all from that company. Onto that other company, I might be working part-time, which means I'm not having a formal employer-employee relationship with them. Thus, people say this cannot be actually called as illegal because this is not, you're not taking up a dual employment. You're just doing a side business or a side hustle, which is there. Adding on to this is a very important achievement that has happened last year. India does not have any specific moonlighting policy, but Swiggy last year announced a moonlighting policy. Swiggy said anybody who's working for Swiggy and its group of companies, after your work, you are free to pursue whatever passion that you have, whatever business that you want. You just should not work for a competitor of Swiggy. After going and delivering Swiggy, I should not go into get into Zomato and do my delivery business. That is not what possible. But if you want to do that also, you can take permission from Swiggy and do that. So they announced the country's first moonlighting policy, which is a huge step forward when it comes to the industry. Is this topic clear to all of you? Okay, I'm not able to see your responses. Are you all responding to this? Can you all have a thumbs up or anything which I can see clearly? Okay, again, I'm not... Okay, yeah. So I guess it must be some technical glitch, but then I hope you are responding to all this. So that concludes that topic. But before I go into the last part, from the prelims perspective, three different terms from the prelims prediction point of view, three different terms can be asked. Your gig economy, share washing, and your concierge economy. So now when it comes to these three terms, what is all these things? In the case of gig economy, it just means the kind of system. So this is the prelims prediction. Understand, any of these terms could be asked in the prelims point of view. Gig economy just means it's the kind of market economy where there are temporary positions and organizations work on a very short-term engagement. For example, you must have heard the term gig. Like, okay, if I'm having maybe a small term, maybe 3 months, I work as one thing in one company. After that, I jump into another company. So I don't have like employment contract for maybe 3 years, 5 years or anything. I take up opportunities. When one opportunity is there, I take it up. If something better comes up, I take that up. So this is your gig economy. There is another term called as share washing. Share washing basically means that when you have any kind of, you have a group of companies which will try to convince the, the person or the group of employees over there that whatever you're doing, it's not just for our profit, but it is for the good of the entire industry. It is basically a marketing strategy which deceives people by trying to suggest that a business is motivated by principles of sharing rather than conventional profits. which means that, for example, if Swiggy is coming out and saying that, hey, when you are doing moonlighting, it is actually for the good of the entire industry and not just for our own specific profits, they are trying to share wash the employees over here. I just want to ask if the co-organizers also can respond. Is the class getting relayed? Is my audio and video clear to all of you? Because can you all respond to that? Are you guys understanding the topic? Okay, so I have got a response here. Finally coming into the last term, which is there, called as concierge economy. Concierge economy basically is something that we all are a part of. I'll read the definition. You all can think of all the parts that you are there for this. An economy in which goods and services can be ordered using apps and it can be provided almost immediately to you. Your Swiggy, Zomato, Zepto, Blinkit, whatever apps you have, whatever apps, if you're using it, it means you're part of the concierge economy. Now, UPSC has a tendency to keep playing around with these terms. That is why these terms were all discussed with you. I hope all these terms are clear to all of you. Yes. Okay. Now coming into the final part of the class, we have almost reached to an end. Now, before I will take up 2-3 questions also, now I just want to convey one thing to you. This is something that I used to do for my students last year. If you count from today onwards, it's 243 days for your prelims. I don't want to scare you. They're almost 8 months. But then we cannot be laid back about it. We have to start our work. The first step, if you, in whatever stage of preparation you are, if you are going to give your prelims next year, if you're going to give your prelims in 2023 on May 28th, this is the right time that you start off. And how do you start off? You might have lost your months. I just want to give you a prelims tip. And in all of the sessions that I would be taking, I will be giving you this. So watch out for that. The prelims tip for today is, if you have done nothing else also at this point, start off with polity. Polity is that one subject which will give you the kind of confidence. So whatever situation you are in, if you've not started off, start off with polity. Do polity and current affairs at this point of time. Okay, whatever time you have, try giving on to this. Once you get a grasp on polity, you will start seeing that you have a tendency to even solve previous UPSC questions in a very elimination technique manner. So I hope that is clear to all of you. Now let me just say some of these. Let me look at some of the questions that are left unanswered here. Example of share washing actually is Swiggy. I'll tell you why. I have told this even to you. Swiggy calls its delivery partners as business partners. They've somehow tried creating a strategy whereby which they try to attract more and more employees to them, saying that, see, you all are doing, we all are equals, we all are business partners. We are doing this for the good of the delivery industry. But actually, they're just exploiting the workers without giving them any proper benefits. So that is an example of share washing. I hope that's clear. What about the government sector? Yes, in the government sector, you cannot moonlight while you're there in the government sector. It's illegal. So if you get into IAS, don't think I'll get into IAS and whatever free time, I will do that work, I will do this work. It is not possible. It's considered against the code of conduct. You can be punished for it. Yes, moonlighting, you cannot say it will have a negative impact. Think about it. Why are people moonlighting? When at the corona time, your companies all became work from home. One other thing that happened is a lot of companies cut short the pay of the individuals. So the people wanted, the amount of money for their better standard of living. That is when the moonlighting started. So you cannot say it's fully of negative impact. The reason being that people are actually being satisfied using this. This is why more and more industries are actually saying, okay, we can make a moonlighting policy, then it will be crystal clear. Next question, yes, gravity tug. Gravity tug is a very simple concept. See, the sun is here, the earth is here. Why are we all in this position? Because the sun has a gravitational force by which it is attracting the earth. The Earth has a counter-gravitational force. Now, in the case of gravity tug, what is being imagined is you will have some kind of a system which will be able to have so much of gravity or attraction to an asteroid. When you have this gravity towards or attraction towards the asteroid, this asteroid will try moving towards the spacecraft. So ideally, if the asteroid is in this direction, it might come and fall onto the Earth at some point. But if it is being pulled, it will come somewhere over here, thereby changing the trajectory, and it will not come and fall onto the Earth. Is this clear to all of you? Yes. Now, finally, coming into the rest of the questions. Yes, okay. See, the incentives are not given to the fertilizer companies. The incentives are given to the states because only the states can control the different companies which are underneath it. This is why the states get the incentive. It's up to the state to give incentive to whoever, because the fertilizer company, if you're giving the incentive, what is the point? Fertilizer company is a chemical fertilizer company. They will keep producing that, right? You have to give to the state which is trying to cut short the chemical fertilizers which are there. Okay, I think with this we have addressed almost all of the questions which are there. USOF covers not just for brownfield, even for greenfield projects which are there. Right of way means you are facilitating or you are giving the permission for telecom companies to enter into contracts with even private individuals so that their infrastructure can be created. Okay. So I guess we have dealt with almost all the questions here. I, for one, am very excited. I was very excited to share all this knowledge with you. I hope even you are excited in the same level. I hope to see you again on the next current affairs webinar, which is there. Until then, keep steady. Go check out all the videos that I told you. Go try making the map and studying it. I will check on you on the next day that I come out. Until then, stay happy, keep learning, and good night.